Hello, I'm Magda Heilborn, and welcome to Hot Tea. We get the story while it's hot. Today we're talking with Linda Miyoshi, and in her regular life, she's a software support engineer for a global software company, and she's also a mom to two awesome teens. But this year, she signed up to be an official poll worker during the 2020 pandemic election. Hi, Linda.
Hello.
So, how have you and your family been handling the year?
We've been doing okay. I've been working from home, but I've always worked from home, and my husband is able to work from home. Um, so our life is, other than not being able to go everywhere, we're doing okay.
Awesome. Have you ever worked the polls before?
Never. And I've thought about it. I have one friend who has done it every year, and I always think, oh, that's a good thing to do. And I just have never taken it any farther before.
Okay, so what made you decide to do it this year?
There was I can't remember who it was. It may have been Rachel Maddow. Somebody was saying, because the traditional poll workers are elderly, we really don't want them risking working during COVID. So if you can step up, please do. And I said, I guess now is my time, and I will.
Awesome. Um, so what kind of safety training did have you do?
The training, the only training they gave us was there was an online course, which was just basically a bunch of slides that you read, and part of the training, it was about the voting process, it was about the procedures for voting integrity, and it was about COVID safety. So it was about how many people you let in at a time, and wiping the equipment, and wearing masks. And so the procedures that we had were, when the first thing that the voters do is they get offered a pair of gloves and a mask and some hand sanitizer. And so before they even get in, they've got all that set.
So what was the setting up process like? Getting the polls and getting people to be orderly.
So the setting up, of course, everything was 6 feet apart. We did it inside. It was a church gym, so there was a lot of area there, and you had the touch screen polling and you had the paper polling. So the first thing when people come in, there are two registration desks where they look up your name and address and offer you either to go to the touch screen or the paper polling. And if you were dropping off the mail-in ballot, that all took place outside, so they didn't even come inside. And then my role was for the touch screen demonstration, to show people how to use the touch screen. So once the people came in, they were directed to whatever station they were at, and so everything was quite far apart. And I had my mask, and I had my face shield, and I had my gloves, and we were sanitizing between voters, and there was a lot to it.
Yeah. Did everybody follow the directions?
Yes, everyone had a mask on. There was one volunteer at the very beginning when we were just getting our instructions and setting up, who was wearing the below the nose mask. And I said, please, can we go above the nose? And he did, and we didn't have any problems after that. We had a couple of, there was 4 days of polling, so it all went pretty smoothly. There were a couple of incidents where some people from the public who maybe had some mental issues came in and were disruptive, but it was handled quite easily, and they were wearing masks. So
Okay. We heard a lot of advice to stay in line, even if it takes all day. Do you think that people had to wait a long time in general, and even all day?
I don't know. I was inside throughout the whole thing. So I didn't see it. We did get 15-minute breaks, and I went outside, and the line was around the building, but it wasn't, because everyone was evenly spaced. I would say it probably wasn't more than 30 people, and we were probably, processing. I don't think it took very long to process each person. And the only time we stopped letting people in were when the stations were full. So I think it was pretty smooth, but I never did ask anybody how long they waited in line.
Okay. Was anybody concerned about preventing tampering and making sure everything was accurately counted? Did anybody express concerns that day?
There was one person who did the touch screens, and they were kind of asking, what happens to their vote. But what did happen with the vote, and this assured people, was that when you do the touch screen voting, you make all your selections, and then you actually print off a paper copy. You review it to make sure it looks good, and then you put your paper copy in the ballot box. So there were at least 2 people that expressed relief that that's what was happening with it. And I think there were some people who chose paper ballot, filling in the dots because they were distrustful of the touchscreen.
Was there anything else that you found was surprising about the way things went?
The thing that I was most surprised at was the diversity of the volunteers, and I just really liked working. So we had 17 volunteers at our location, and about half of them were regulars, have been doing it every year, and about half of us were first timers. And there were 3 high school students and one senior lady who I think was an octogenarian who was riding on a scooter and had her oxygen with her. And I think there was every decade of life represented between the 2. I mean, we had here at the touch screens, we were all middle-aged ladies, but there were a lot of young people, and just it was really nice, the diversity both in age and ethnicity, and I just really enjoyed the group of people who were running it.
Do you feel like your concerns were alleviated after doing that?
Yes. So in fact, my husband had recently, right before then, had traveled to LA, and I visit my elderly parents every week. So when he came back, and they were, I think down south, they had higher numbers than we have. And I said, when you come back, I want you to take a COVID test before I go visit my parents again. And he agreed. And he said, I think you should take a COVID test after you do the election work. And honestly, I didn't think there was any need to. I felt like, the distance and the touching, I didn't feel exposed even for a moment. I just felt like it was very, very safe.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Linda.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Magda Heilborn, and I hope we have filled your cup today here on Hot Tea.